Welcome to the Jewish Road Podcast. My name is Matt Davis.
And I'm Ron Davis.
We help Christians make sense of the roots of their faith.
And we help the Jewish community make sense of Jesus.
Thanks for joining us.
Every tribe, every tongue, Emmanuel, your King shall come. End of sorrows, end of pain. Come and praise Creator's name.
Hey friends, welcome to the Jewish Road Podcast. My name is Matt Davis, and I'm on the road this week. We're over in Dallas, Texas at Gateway Church, and we're partnering with the ministry that is known as the Center for Israel. And while here, got to meet a new friend, and his name is Ruby Bishai. Ruby, hello, shalom.
Hi, Matt. Shalom.
Good to be with you. We got to experience In and Out together for the very first time. We had a little
First
late
time
night.
for myself.
First time, yes, for you.
Yeah.
And so that was fun. But here with a few Israelis, you are an Israeli, and so we wanted to be able to just capture some of your story because God has you uniquely placed in lots of different ways. And so let's start with where do you live in Israel?
So hello, everyone. Hello to everyone that is listening. I live in the northern part of Israel, in the Golan Heights, in a town called Katzrin. It's a beautiful, peaceful town in the mountains. We're surrounded with forests. Usually it's peaceful. In the past couple of weeks, we've been getting a lot of bombs and rockets aimed and shoot at us. So I've been spending more time than I wish in a bomb shelter in the past couple of weeks, but I'm glad to be here in the States.
Yeah. So you are a believer in Messiah, in Jesus. Give me a little bit of how that story came about.
So I was born to an Arab Christian family. My mother is Arab Israeli. My father is Egyptian. They got married. They were both believers. They met in Egypt, got married, decided to live here. And actually, through my mother's calling, she was one of the founders of the first Messianic Jewish school in Israel. She was the first teacher there.
Wow.
So that's why I ended up growing in a Jewish community, attending a Jewish school, attending a Messianic congregation, as well as going to an Arab church. So Saturday we'd go to a congregation, Saturday we go to a church.
Wow. Okay.
Yeah.
So a lot going on. So you are, and let's just, I want to unpack a couple things because your story is loaded with lots of things going on. But you are an Arab Israeli. So you're living in Israel, but you're also very much part of the Jewish community in Israel. What does that life look like and feel like?
Oh man, it's you know what? I would start with saying I wouldn't have it any other way. For the longest part of my life, I felt like I've got to choose. What am I? Am I an Arab? Am I a Palestinian? Am I Israeli? And everyone is trying to put you in a box and make you choose, but I never could choose. I love the aspects of both sides. I love attending an Arab church. I love the worship. I love the sermon. I love attending a congregation. I love the people. I love the atmosphere. So. But myself, as I said, I grew up going to a Messianic congregation. I ended up serving more in the Messianic side just because I felt my beliefs aligned more with the Messianic Jewish movement. I felt sometimes in Christianity, the Old Testament gets overlooked a lot of time. And for me, when I read it for myself, it felt like, no, it should be up there with the New Testament. It's not like a separate book that we need to overlook. It's still alive to this day. So that's why I find myself more relating to the Messianic Jewish movement in Israel. But also I'm very much serving with the Arab side. So, yeah.
And you do serve really part of a ministry called Fields of Wheat with Eitan Shishkoff over there. What is part of the ministry that is going on? Let's do the ministry before October 7th?
Thank you for doing this separation, because truly it's been so different. October 7th changed everything for us, as I believe for many other Israelis and other believers in the land. Before October 7th, we focus developing the youth and young adult believers in the land. This is where our name comes from, Fields of Wheat. It's from Matthew, where we're preparing for the harvest. We're preparing the workers for the harvest. So we do youth conferences in Israel. We do a week-long youth conferences 3 times a year during the major holidays, Hanukkah and Pesach, and also in the summer break. And we've also started working with young adults, doing conferences, seminars, brunch. Just we felt like there's more need for activities and programs for young adults. And in the future, we are hoping to develop a discipleship program with Jewish and Arab believers together, and a true partnership in the land between the two.
So a lot of ministry going on the ground in Israel, next generation type ministries, which is part of the reason we're both here at this student conference this week, to learn more, see more, be able to answer some questions. And then ever since October 7th, the world has changed, but your world has changed in particular. What does ministry look like now?
Yeah, October 7th for us, it has pretty hard. I know personally a couple of people who were killed at the rave, and then also some soldiers who got killed. And yeah, it changed everything. At the beginning, I think first a couple of days, we were trying to figure out what's going on. And we've made a decision as a ministry that we are going to tunnel all our energy and funds towards soldiers. There's a lot of shortage in equipment for soldiers. One of the things that the war did show is the resilience of the Israeli people and the Jewish people, and it brought so many soldiers, so many people volunteered, that we had overflow of soldiers volunteering, but that also meant a shortage with equipment. And also the IDF wasn't prepared really for this amount of soldiers and this large battle. So the IDF reserves were empty, and we helped purchase and supply equipment for soldiers. So that's one thing that has changed for us. And then also navigating as a team, as a ministry. A lot of our staff are in reserve duty. Our director, Joel Jelski, he was also in reserve duty, so a lot of responsibility passed on to my plate. And also, so I was trying to navigating the ministry's affair, but also supplying soldiers with equipment. And we had to cancel our Hanukkah conference, which I think beside COVID, we never canceled one of our camps, which was painful to do, but also at the time of such uncertainty, we had to. But then in Passover, we did have our camp, and it was truly amazing. I think what I've seen there, and this is what I'm seeing here also at this conference, is how much the next generation is thirsty for the Word of God, and especially in Israel. I think, like, if for myself, the war, I felt it pretty hard, and I was, down and upset, in the beginning and for a while. Imagine the next generation not having any guidance, any directions, and I think especially in these times, they need this work, they need these conferences, they need this relationship with the youth pastors and the youth leaders to guide them. And I've decided I don't want to fail them, and we are going to have our Passover camp. So it was very interesting having a camp during the war. It was right on the week where Iran sent hundreds of missiles into Israel.
Right.
But it turned out to be one of our best conferences I remember.
So let's talk about identity for a second, because It's been something that I've struggled with early on when I was still trying to figure out who I was. Even as a teenager, I would have friends at school that would say, "You're Jewish, but you believe in Jesus, so you're actually a Christian, you're no longer Jewish." I would imagine that for you as an Arab who lives in Israel, and I think a lot of people don't even understand that there's 20% of the population of Israel that's not Jewish, that there is an Arab population. So that opens up a whole kind of set of questions, and Israel is this apartheid state and everything else. But first explain this, the difference between Arabs and Palestinians, because you are an Arab Israeli, but you are not Palestinian.
Yeah, that's right. So the way I see it, Palestinians are the ones who are living in the West Bank and in Gaza.
Yeah.
I don't have any affiliation or a need to view myself this way, because I don't really have anything related to them, and I respect their identity. I'm not one of these people who are saying, they shouldn't feel that way. It's a made up identity. I think that's one of the issues both sides have, is disregarding the other's identity. And if we can debate it, if it is a made up nationality or not, or when did the movement start, which I do believe it started in the 60s. It's not a 100 years old movement. It only started in the 60s.
But Yasser Arafat.
Yeah, with Yasser Arafat. Yeah, I completely agree with that. But the fact of the matter is, there are 5 million people right now identifying that way. But again, since I didn't growing up in these areas, I don't feel a need to identify myself that way. But I would say, that's the main difference. There are some Arab Israelis who would identify themselves as Palestinians. I personally, I don't like, I don't identify that way. And I think the more Israel would be wise to integrate its Arab citizens into the culture, the less people will feel that way. Because I think when Arab Israelis feel that way, it's because they're feeling alienated from the Israeli culture. They're not really feeling Israeli. They're feeling excluded, and that's why they're turned into their Palestinians. But for myself, I don't think it's a solution, and I don't think the Palestinians want us as part of their movement, as they demonstrated on the 7th of October while killing Arab Israelis. So, this is where I stand.
And so what is it like then for you with, how are you perceived, number one, by the Jewish people? Mm-hmm. Are you received by the Jewish people? And what are your Arab brothers and sisters? How do they receive you that you are doing ministry, reaching out to see the salvation of the Jewish people?
Yeah, so if I go a little bit back, I think before hoping for people to accept me and how they perceive me, I had to accept myself and my identity. And that was the toughest part of my journey, because imagine, like, as a teenager, Arab teenager growing up in a Jewish town and around the Jewish community.
Right.
That's a recipe for an identity crisis and issue.
Sure.
And for many times I didn't quite find myself, or like, what am I? Am I an Arab? Am I Israeli? Am I Jewish? And I'll always try. So this is answering your question. I'll always try to find solace. So sometimes I'd go, well, from now on, I'm Israeli. I'm gonna serve in the IDF. I'm gonna speak Hebrew only. But then I would not be truly accepted, or I feel like I'm sort of fitting in, and then a war would start, and then suddenly everyone has been suspicious of me, or everyone is expecting me to condemn the war as if I'm Hamas spokesperson,
right?
Which obviously I'm against it, but it's a bit tiring always having to prove your loyalty. And then in the Arab side, it's the same way, where you're too Jewish, you're too Israeli. So for myself, I've been struggling with it a lot, and it also really affected my faith, where I turned to God and well, God, like, how could you have second-class citizens? Like in Israel, the Jewish identity is big part of the faith, and I feel like everyone is trying to like relate or find this Jewish heritage, or just, I have a Jewish grandfather, I'm Jewish, as if it's something to strive or try to achieve. And for myself, I'm not Jewish, so does that mean I'm not as good? Am I damaged goods? Like, where does that put me? And I had a lot of anger towards God, and a lot of like a chip on my shoulder, where I'm trying to prove myself that I'm no lesser than anyone else, and I'm like in this competition with everyone else, where I'm trying to prove myself, trying to be the best in my class, the best in every field, but nobody else is aware of this competition. It's just in my head, right? But this is how I felt for a while, and
part of that, you said there was a struggle for you in looking at the Jewish people as God's chosen people and feeling almost second class.
Yeah.
Like, how did you work some of that out with the Lord even?
Yeah, so it took me a while. I'm going to be honest with you. I wish sometimes when I hear people's testimony and it's like in a second things change. I wish it was this way for myself. It would have saved me a lot of pain, but This is not how God worked in my heart.
You had to take the long and hard way.
The long and hard way, exactly. But he worked. He talked me through scriptures. Through his word, he showed his loyalty for myself, and I think only when I truly understood what the calling of the Jewish people was, did I see the bigger picture. Because up until this time, I was thinking, the Jewish people are the chosen people. God must have chosen them to be better than anyone else. But it turns out what I've learned is the Jewish people were chosen for a specific task in the role, and even further than that, I think God has showed me that him keeping his promises to the Jewish people is the biggest guarantee I have that he's gonna honor the rest of his promises. Because why would we trust his promises for our salvations if he breaks his promise to the Jewish people?
That's right.
And again, as I said, it's not always easy. Sometimes it's something I'm struggling with it, and I wake up in the morning, I'm like, God, give me more love for the Jewish people. It's not always easy. It's not like everything has disappeared. But I would say it's a process. It's a journey I'm going through. But when that clicked in, everything changed for me. And then I wanted to serve the Jewish people. I wanted to help them fulfill their potential. This is one thing. I forgot the name of this book in English. It's a book that Solomon wrote. In Hebrew, it's Echa.
Ecclesiastes.
Yeah, exactly. So, so first of all, this book in Hebrew is fascinating because the way it's written, it's the first chapter. Every verse is in the order of the letters of the alphabet.
Right.
You don't get that in English.
Yeah.
You get it in Hebrew. So I'm fortunate enough to read the Bible in Hebrew. But then one of the verses is when or was it Jeremiah? My bad. It was Jeremiah who wrote that book. So when Jeremiah wrote it, and he was looking at the fall of Jerusalem, and it was God speaking to him, and when God saw the city in tears, what was truly what God was sad about is that this, it didn't realize its ending. It didn't fulfill its potential. God saw how much potential the city had, the people of Israel had, and when they turned away from God and he saw the ruins, he was sad not only for them physically now, but also what they could have achieved. And this is sort of what God put in my heart, is helping fulfill that potential, and serving the Jewish people and supporting them, and how I as a Gentile play into all of this.
Well, and you look at like Deuteronomy 7, why God chose the Jewish people, right? It was not because you were more than in number than any other people that the Lord set his love on you and chose you, for you were the fewest of all people, but it is because the Lord loves you and is keeping the oath that he swore to your fathers that the Lord has brought you out with a mighty hand and redeemed you from the house of slavery, from the hand of the Pharaoh of the king. So God is faithful to the Jewish people, but so that they would be a light to
Amen.
all of the other nations. And there's still so much more to go, right? That light has been flickering for a couple of millennia now, and really this is the age where the Gentiles come in to be a light and to provoke the Jewish people to jealousy so that they might come back to faith.
Yeah,
Right?
amen.
Yeah. So as you look at what's going on in the world, there is this battle. At this point in the battle, we're sitting here and it's the middle of June, and it seems like the battle in Gaza and Rafah right now is coming to a close. It feels like things up in Lebanon in the north are starting to open. And everybody's looking in the world at like what's going to happen. We see these accusations of that Israel is this apartheid state and they are committing a genocide. How do you look at that from your perspective?
So I think, right now we in Israel, we are very much aware of the criticism, and it's been talked about a lot. For myself, this is one of these moments I'm being reminded that this war is not being fought in flesh and blood, but this is a very much spiritual war. If you've been to Israel, you know how tiny the country is.
Yep.
How diverse it is, how far from apart it actually is. So just hearing all of that, and sometimes we tend to forget that, and especially during the war and being caught up with supplying soldiers with equipment, sometimes we forget that. But this is actually it's no coincidence this war is getting this much attention. And I'm not saying Israel is above criticism, and I'm not saying things like there shouldn't be an effort at least to avoid casualties. And I think Israel does that. Mm-hmm. And I truly believe in the morality of the IDF soldiers. I wouldn't be helping them if I didn't think so. But this is one of the instances where I've been reminded that there is something larger and bigger than what we're seeing with our own eyes. Yeah,
I mean, certainly the Lord is at work with everything that's going on. It's brought Israel together as a nation. When I was in Israel in May of last year, so about a year ago, there were protests on the street because Israel was at war with himself, very much like we are here in America. Politically, there's a massive divide and governmental things, but there has been a unity that's come together as a people. Do you feel like that is even the case amongst the Arab Israelis?
I think for the Arab Israelis, the war was sort of a wake-up call. I think many of them, some of them who had this, fantasy of like the Palestinian state, or relating with the Palestinians. I think even for them, what happened on 7th of October was a shock. I don't really have the statistics, but I would say the majority of Arabs in the land have condemned what happened on October 7, are very much against it. Maybe like a small minority was maybe happy about it, but I would say the majority was very much against it, and it showed. I think Hamas expected them to join the war effort, and they didn't. They were always calling, our brothers from within the land, come take arms with us, and they didn't. And that's one of the things where they saw, they went too far, and I think that made them rethink a lot of things, because that's what I'm saying. Like in that moment, what happened 7th of October, it might, for some people, be just like a war far away, thousands of miles away. But for us, it was very much an existence war, and it could have easily turned into a multi-front war if Hezbollah would have joined as it was planned. If they would have joined the attack in the West Bank and Gaza and Hezbollah militants in Syria, it could have looked way different. But I think Arab Israelis are distancing themselves from Hamas and what's going on. I would say right now it's starting to go a little bit back to, well, here's the thing. We are exposed to the media in Arabic, so we read the news in Arabic, we read the news outside of Gaza, and sometimes and it's like it's a dilemma. You're being torn between, in one hand, well, you believe that Hamas should be eliminated for what they done. They're a dangerous death cult, and I completely agree with that. But also, you just can't, you see innocent people dying, and you see babies dying, and unfortunately it happens in war. War is not something pleasant, and it's hard to see that. And right now, I can tell you, in Israeli media, they don't show no footage from Gaza. They're not reporting about it. And I think one of the things Hamas did is it stole a lot of the humanity and mercy of Israelis, where in different war, they'd be reporting of if innocent people are dying, they'd be reporting about it. They're being showing footage right now. And even in a leftist media, you don't see that much. So I think it really affected, we are still in trauma. We haven't even started really processing what we've been through. And and with the hostages and everything, it's a mess. But to answer your question, I think the majority of the Arabs are very much against Hamas, but also want to see this resolved.
I've heard this said from Israelis, and I've heard this said from Americans, but I want to ask you, I've always heard that if you are an Arab in the Middle East, that there is no better place and no greater freedom that you have than to live in Israel. Do you think that is true compared to all of the other surrounding Arab countries in the Middle East?
I could say this with certainty as a Christian, as a believer. There is no other country in the Middle East or in the world, in that matter, that I would rather be. As an Arab, I don't know. I guess if I was Muslim, I think living in Dubai would be pretty sweet.
Right. Okay.
I'm kidding, but what I'm saying is, I think with the democracy we have, you don't really see it in any other country around us. Egypt is heading for their, I don't know how many dictatorship. Lebanon, the country is in shambles and is on the brink of another civil war. Jordan is a mess. Syria, they just went to
Massive civil
horrible
war.
civil war.
Right.
So yeah, I don't see. So I would say, yeah, I think as an Arab, I can't speak for all the Arabs, but I do believe that for Arabs, but especially as believers, with like freedom to pursue our faith and not going through persecution like our brothers and sisters in Arab countries are going through, Israel is definitely the safest country to be in.
Yeah. As we kind of wrap this up, I'm just curious, where do you see hope? Hope for the war to come to a close, hope for peace in the Middle East, hope for salvation for the Jewish people and for the Arabs?
That's a big question. I think for myself, so when I started supplying soldiers with equipment, I would drive hours to meet up with soldiers and give them equipment. And at the beginning, I was a bit scared. I didn't know how this will go as an Arab person, as a believer going into this bases and these very some of them are very sensitive, and like I didn't know, will they accept me? How would they react? And it's something that was truly scary for me. But from these encounters, I've learned so much. I've always been welcomed with open arms. People were always excited to see me. They were always happy to see me. They were always wanting to talk to me, to have conversations. And this is also when I realized many of the times, like many of the soldiers I visited, a friendship and a bond would firm with them. And then sometimes I'd visit them even without equipment, just to have coffee with them, because they were striving to some connection with someone from the outside. And so this gave me hope, because for them, knowing I'm an Arab, but accepting me in that way, and being so grateful. And I was like, well, if we can do it, other people can. And the other thing is, they were very, very open to hear about the gospel. I've never tried to push it on them. I didn't want it to use the war in a cynical way to do missionary work. I truly just wanted to bless them. So at the beginning, I wouldn't have even mentioned that I'm a believer. Sometimes I would say I'm a believer. Sometimes I would say it was important to me to say that this equipment was donated from believers around the world, but I'll leave it at that. And 9 times out of 10, they would start asking a question, and they want to hear about the gospel, and they want to hear more about God. And this is also giving me hope, because as horrible as October 7th was, and as horrible as this war is, and I truly hope it will come to an end and all the hostages will be released, I think many people in this time in Israel are turning to God. It could go either way. Some of them are starting to be more religious, Haredim, but many other are wondering and seeking answers, and I hope they will turn to the true God, the true King, to Jesus.
Man, what an amazing thing that God would send you, an Arab believer in the land of Israel, to the Jewish people who don't know their Messiah yet. And you get to not only bring equipment and goods that they need as soldiers, but even more so, you get to bring good news, better news. And so,
Amen.
and I continue to hear that story, that there's an openness now amongst the Jewish people, that they've been looking and seeking for solace and peace and hope in the God of Abraham, Isaac, and Jacob. Hopefully they will see that peace in the Messiah, in
Amen.
Yeshua too. We threw out an idea, we talked about this. Let's set up a table here at the conference, and you'd have a sign in front of you that says, I'm Arab, ask me a question. I'd sit right next to you. I'm Jewish, ask me a question. But I think that'd be a really fun thing to do in downtown Lexington, Kentucky, in central Kentucky. Would you be up for doing that?
Yeah, definitely. I think one of the things that, well, I didn't want to come to the States at first. There was like, I really thought we were on the brink of another war with Lebanon.
Yeah. Just this week, right?
Just this week.
Yeah.
With the pace of everything, the rockets were shooting at us. And then also, I don't know, it felt bad leaving everything behind coming here. But as sort of the demand for equipment slowed down a little bit, it gave me some time to just think about it. And I really think, as an Arab Israeli believer, there's a lot of misinformation going on here in this country about the war. And I would like to get my opinion more out there, and my perspective, and hopefully it will help people see what truly is going on. So I'll definitely be open to something like this.
Yeah. Well, thank you for sharing the world, the kingdom of God, through your lens and what God is doing there in the Northern Galilee. I'm thankful to have a new friend, and I already love Katzrin. It's one of our favorite stops for wine and olive oil. And so now we have another reason to go visit there. So thank you for sharing your story.
Thank you for having me.
Yeah. Shalom.
Shalom.